Ms. Crouch, can you call roll?
Ms. Knapp?
Here.
Mr. Ringgold?
Here.
Mrs. Faust?
Here.
Says stands small
First on the agenda today is public comment. Do we have any comments from members of the public? Okay. And next we have general announcements. Does anyone have general announcements?
I have a general. So I'm excited to announce, thanks to the hard work of our staff, that our two cemeteries, Africa and Williamsville Cemetery, have been registered to participate in the National Wreaths Across America Day, which will be occurring on December 14th this year. For those of you who aren't familiar with Wreaths Across America, it's a nonprofit program that will honor our entombed veterans in our township cemeteries, and we'll be laying wreaths on their graves on December 14th. There'll be more information to come on what the ceremony will look like, but leading up to December 14th, we will be sharing more information about the ceremony and how you can contribute or volunteer to participate in the ceremony. So thank you for all the hard work that's gone into getting that program up and running.
And remind us which two cemeteries are the township-owned cemeteries that are participating in this?
Yes, Africa, the one on Africa Road, Africa Cemetery, and Williamsville Cemetery.
Because there are other cemeteries in the
23.
township that are not
Correct.
township-owned, so just so we're clear on that. Yeah, that's exciting. This is nothing to do with township, but the Orange Township Marching Band is performing in Ireland, and they are performing in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Dublin, Ireland, on St. Patrick's Day, which is like a week and a half from now. So if anybody wants to see them, you can download this app called RTE Player, and then you can see them participate. That's kind of fun.
And this is not really an announcement, but I just wanted to make the public aware that we've been having meetings on our new proposed zoning resolution, which is it's pretty complicated process, and basically it's going to affect every parcel in the township. We've been spending a lot of time on that, and also our Parks Committee has been working on the playground, the new playground that's going to be at North Road Park. So we're really excited about having a new, really cool playground to be built within the next year or so. Mm-hmm. So we've been working hard on those things. So.
And there's going to be a community event next Wednesday at 5:30.
Oh yeah, that's both.
Yeah, for the zoning over.
Zoning, yeah, and that's open to the public, and that's here. And what date is that?
It's the next week, Wednesday the 13th.
Wednesday 13th, at 5:30 here. And is that going to be a formal presentation or an open?
It'll
house?
be a presentation style. We've done 2 open houses, so this is our announcement of the first draft of the code.
Okay, so people can come and give their give input.
Yeah,
on
it'll be
that, ask
interactive.
questions and things. Okay, good.
And it'll be recorded as well, so if you're not able to make it, you'll be able to get the information.
Very
Yes.
handy. And that's in this room.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Next, we have the Delaware County Engineers Office project update. Would you like to come up?
Yep.
All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. Appreciate the time this afternoon. You know Doug Riedel, I'm sure. Doug is our Township Engineer. And if this presentation is good, you need to give Doug the credit. If it's terrible, it's my fault. But work together to put together some information for you on some of the projects we'll be working on over the next several years in and around Orange Township. Wanted to start a little bit more credit to Doug. He deserves a lot. He's got 18 different clients, 18 different townships with 3 trustees for each township. So he does a nice job of kind of keeping the lines of communication open between our office and the townships. So you can see just a quick update on our permit activity and our growth over the last 20 years. You can see Last year was a pretty big year with 1,500 building permits, and that's just in the unincorporated areas. So we're not, I would say we're not quite back to the crazy days of the mid-2000s yet, but we're well on our way. We're growing at a big way. So that comes with all sorts of challenges, which I know you're aware of. Just a quick map kind of showing where the bulk of that activity is happening. There's a nice big orange blob that covers a good bit of Orange Township, but as you can see, some of the other areas of the county are growing pretty rapidly as well. So I've picked out, 13 projects I want to talk about. I'll try to run through these fairly quickly, but I will say before I get started, there's a whole lot more the engineer's office is doing. We've got actually about over 70 projects we'll be working on over the next 5 years throughout Delaware County. Try to pick the ones most relevant to Orange Township to talk about today. So we'll get started on that. I want to start with the Bale Canyon road improvements you're, of course, familiar with. Phase 1 of that project is very close to completion. We still have some work involving the shared use path. The contractor will actually be working on that very shortly, if not currently, but they'll be finishing up the path, putting the final asphalt surface on the road, and then touch-up grading and seeding as needed. So that'll be wrapped up by the summer. And then Phase 2, I've had a number of conversations with your staff, with Silas involving Phase 2, trying to put together a funding package for that phase. You did submit a $500,000 application to Ohio Public Works this past fall. We don't have final confirmation yet, but I think you're in a very good position to get funded on that. I did get a glance at the list of projects that were submitted, and I'm optimistic that that grant will be approved. So also the Delaware County TID is contributing another $750,000 towards Phase 2. That was approved last year, and then of course there would be another $150,000 that the Delaware County Commissioners will grant, I should say match your local share on the state grant. So current schedule for that is to advertise that project for bids later this year, and then I think with the amount of utility work that has to happen before we can start road work, that work probably will not start until early next year. There's an outside chance we may be able to get some of the work done late this fall, but we'll see how the utility work is going.
So does that mean that we wouldn't see road closure until beginning of 25?
I wouldn't expect it to happen until 2025. Again, we'll just have to see how the utilities are doing later this year.
Okay.
Just a quick recap with the phasing map. Phase 2 is at the south end. Again, Phase 1 very close to being complete, and all that work will include the shared use path on the west side of the road and a 2-lane section. So again, have had some discussions with your staff about looking ahead to Phase 3, which is the middle section. We at the county are open to having some more detailed discussions about taking that phase on as a county project. Looking, I would say, similar to the arrangement we had on the Shanahan Road project, where the county would initiate and advance that, and then hopefully upfront the funding. We would like to talk about a reimbursement mechanism to repay those costs, but there's some time to work through that. So just wanted to present that today. Not in a position to offer anything today, but we'll have those discussions moving ahead.
With respect to that potential partnership, would that change the timing for the road widening?
It certainly wouldn't move it back. I think if anything, we could move it ahead, but I don't see any reason not to continue to pursue grant opportunities. Again, Ohio Public Works is a nice program because it doesn't come with any, I don't want to say any, it comes with very few administrative strings and additional work that has to be completed. So it's worthwhile to try to continue to pursue that.
And is there any likelihood of doing phases 2 and 3 at the same time, or that's probably still not?
We can talk about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's kind of going to be threading the needle in terms of the schedule that would be required for OPWC.
Right.
But, that's not to say we couldn't bid it as phase 2 is ongoing. And so that same contractor that's already working would have every reason to sharpen their pencil, so to speak, on the bid and give you the best price.
Do we know what the cost for phase 3 is?
I don't have that at my fingertips. I want to say it's around $3 million. Silas, do you have or Doug? 3.5 maybe. We can get you that information. Moving on, Green Meadows Drive from the new Home Road extension up to Lewis Center Road at the roundabout. That project has been bid and awarded. Boss Excavating is the contractor who will be doing that job. They will actually very likely start work next week on that project. At the south end, we are still waiting on one more permit to get the corridor cleared, but our expectation is that work will be done this fall.
So we could see the ability to drive at the end of this year.
That's our expectation, yes. So again, that's a $2.8 million project, and that's funded through a combination of the TIF revenues from the Slate Ridge development. So that's all of the Schottenstein apartments, as well as the Mount Carmel facility. And there is also an agreed special assessment that was part of the development deal for Slate Ridge. So the new Pulte development that will be built kind of on the north side of Home Road. Each of those 218 units, plus or minus, will be paying a special assessment for 20 years. That will be contributed towards both the Green Meadows extension as well as the Home Road extension, which I'll talk about in just a second. So small section of path, we'll be working with your township on getting that connection made. It's very close to the high school, relatively short, non-complex section, but obviously that'd be nice to have that continuous path all the way from the new development, Schottenstein, Wilcox area down to the high school and the Montagne Crossing area. So that'd be a nice connection to have. Old State at Hollenbach Road. This is an intersection we started looking at last year, looking at some options regarding how to improve it, how best to improve it. We looked at the potential of a roundabout. We looked at a traffic signal with turn lanes. And it seems to us the best alternative here is going to be the traffic signal with the turn lanes. We really like roundabouts. Unfortunately, with the proximity of two of the homes to the intersection, it would have very, very significant impacts to both of those properties, doing a roundabout, as well as the fact there's a lot of traffic. And so that a single lane roundabout would be approaching its capacity in a shorter time frame than we would like. So we always shoot to get 20 years minimum out of any new construction project. So a single lane roundabout, that would be really pushing the capacity of that single lane once we get to that 20-year horizon. So again, we'll keep developing that through this year, hopefully start making offers to the affected property owners later this year and early next year, and then be in a position to build that probably starting in 2025. Shanahan Road improvements you're familiar with. We are in the design phase right now, working with our consultant on kind of refining the design, coming up with the design that works most efficiently. But again, that will be a 3-lane road. We are aware that you've had discussions with Berlin Township about a path. We've spoken to both townships, and we are certainly agreeable to adding that path to the project. We have some more discussions we'll have to have with each of you regarding the funding on that. If you flip to the next slide. The cost of that is going to be in the ballpark of $900,000 to get the base and the pavement built for the path. So the county is agreeable to just adding that on to the current contribution that we've already agreed to. So just snapped a quick screenshot of Lewis Center Road near Meadows at Lewis Center. That's roughly what this road would look like. It would be an open ditch road with the side path. The path on Shanahan Road may be a little closer to the pavement just because of the way the land lays, but that's in essence what we're looking at for Shanahan, or yes, Shanahan Road.
Did you say it's expanded to the south?
It would be expanded both directions, slightly more to the south, but
Giant poles, like telephone
yeah.
or power,
Yes.
telephone power, something like that, utility
Yes.
poles on the north side.
With this agreement, for the path, would we need to amend the existing one, or would it be a separate one?
I think it would just be an amendment to the current agreement.
Okay,
So haven't drafted that yet, but we'll be certainly in touch with you about
okay.
shoring that up.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Can you remind us how much we're paying right now for our chunk with just the road?
Yeah, so the current agreement calls for $150,000 per year for 7 years, starting in 2025. The home road extension, this is a big project, and you've probably heard me say this. I say this to a lot of folks. If it were a bridge over anything but a railroad, it would have been already done. Unfortunately, working with the railroad does take a good bit of time and come with some additional complexity. Working through getting the approvals of the railroad for a new pier that would be situated between the two railroads, and meeting all the railroad's design criteria for the vertical clearance and lateral clearance. So long process. We are working through that, currently estimated at about $17 million. As I stand here, I think we'll be in a position to go to construction late in 2025 on this, and it'll be about a 12-month construction job. Moving down to Orange Road, this is a project we have in design. It's a little bit behind the Home Road project in terms of the development, but here's a rendering of what that would look like. This would be an underpass. We did look very briefly at an overpass. Because those tracks are already elevated quite a bit above the roadway, it would be really an enormous bridge over to go over the railroads, and that would have a dramatic impact on the neighborhoods, both visually and very likely physically encroaching on some of those neighborhoods. So really, we feel like the underpass is the only feasible option, and so we've been working to advance that, get the necessary railroad approvals. If you flip to the next slide, or maybe 2 slides down, I want to talk a little bit about the funding. So we've had, actually as recently as last week, had some good discussions with ODOT and the Ohio Rail Development Commission. There are some grant funding programs out there that will help pay for projects like this. One of those is a federal program through the US DOT. It's called the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program. It is our intent to apply to that program. They have not released the notice of funding yet, but that will happen at some point this year. So our hope is to seek at least $20 million through that program. And then the state of Ohio also has a smaller, but good-sized program called the Ohio Grade Crossing Elimination Program. That program will provide additional funds either to offset some of the local match or to supplement to fill in the gap, so to speak, on the local match for that federal program. So our expectation, I don't want to say expectation, bad word, our hope is that this will be a very competitive application. The feedback we got from ODOT and Matt Dietrich at the Rail Development Commission was very positive. And that's in large part due to the other 2 projects we have on the same rail line, both at Home Road the new overpass, which just talked about, and then further north at Cheshire Road, we have a grade separation there on the existing alignment. And so one of the considerations when the US DOT and the folks that look at these applications, one of those considerations is looking at the railroad corridor itself. And so we have within a 5-mile section 3 projects that will eliminate 2 of those at-grade crossings and then take a good bit of traffic off a third at Lewis Center Road, because so much of that traffic will be diverted to the new home road. So again, the feedback we got, this would be a very, very competitive application, just given how much traffic is already on Orange Road and the fact that this is part of a much bigger picture to address that whole railroad corridor. So more news to come on this. We'll keep you obviously informed as we move through the application process this year.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you know how much money has been spent so far on all these processes to get to this point by the county?
Through the preliminary design, it's probably approaching $1 million. We have about 60% complete design plans right now.
Okay, and one big bone of contention was how long that would have to be closed down for. And because if it's going to be shut down, that's really not really doable. I mean, if it's going to be shut down. So you guys were talking about getting permission for a temporary, what's that called? Like a temporary crossing?
That's exactly what we're asking for. And that's, we certainly have. And we don't have that yet because I think from the railroad's perspective, it's part of a bigger picture as to, what does this project do for the railroad? But we're working through that. It's certainly our desire to have a temporary at-grade crossing to maintain traffic.
But I mean, before you get it's designed and say, oh, sorry, we're not going to let you go. It's shut down for a whole year. I think that would be a real that wouldn't be acceptable to me at all to have that shut down for that long. And I feel like we're spending a lot of money to get to that point without the answer.
I certainly understand and appreciate the comment. I'll say this. I think, the design life of that structure would be 75 years, in excess of 75 years. And so, yes, it would. First off, we are making the very best case we can that we need to maintain traffic across that on Orange Road. It's 10,000 trips per day, roughly, on that road. That would be a huge inconvenience and at some level of safety concern about rerouting all of that traffic. And so we're making the case as best we can. I understand your point about maybe just not doing the project if we can't get that. I think from our standpoint, we're looking at the big picture as, yes, it would be a horrible year to have that closed, but in reality.
Over a year, correct? Would it be 1 to 2 years?
It will take at least a year. There's no question. Yeah.
So when did you say the crossing over Home Road is expected to be done by 2025?
26.
2026. And so it would be our intention to definitely have Home Road done before we do any work at Orange Road. That would actually be done before Home Road. So these will go in pretty quick sequence.
Is there traffic study that's been done to see the implications of both of those crossing? Because I think a lot of people are currently using the orange crossing because there's nothing else. And I feel very strongly that once we get these crossings over the other 2, that will take a lot of the local traffic. It will just become mostly local traffic because you have all those people going north who will want to go north for much quicker access. So what if we find that both of those overpasses end up opening and then it strongly reduces the amount of traffic on Orange? Because, I mean, you can argue that the population will continue to grow and get bigger, but we're nearly built out. And it could become, mostly local traffic. So I think this is $35 million. I mean, originally it was like 12 million.
It was 27 last year.
Yeah, but it was 12 million.
Yeah.
It's like 12 and then 15 now. Holy crap, 35. It'll be 50 by the end, I feel like. So how do we know that this is even necessary? I mean, is a traffic study going to be done to see how much of that traffic is going to be diverted onto those other two?
Yeah, so we have done traffic studies at Home Road. The Cheshire Road is unlikely to change significantly with the grade
far
crossing
enough,
because
yeah.
it's far enough removed from these two. But the Home Road crossing will more directly impact Lewis Center Road. Having that direct connection to 23 will take quite a bit of traffic off Lewis Center Road. It's reasonable to expect that, yes, some of the traffic from Orange Road may migrate up to Home Road if they're headed to points north already.
Or
Because
even if they're 20 also going farther south in South Old State and sit in that traffic that's going north on South Old State. I think there would be quite a bit of subdivisions that would actually go north and then go south.
Yeah. I think, we're, again, at the end of the day, we're still talking about 10,000 vehicles. So even if that number is 10 or 20%, we still are left with a huge volume of traffic on Orange Road that needs to either get to the high school or middle school.
Yeah, it just changes the whole appearance of the community, and it's
But
extremely.
we'll be able to get across the tracks, because if you notice, there's the bike path and the multi.
Oh, yeah, no, the bike
That'll
path is
be
good too, but
lovely.
it still changes. I mean, it's very expensive. We don't have the money for it, and it will drastically affect the whole community. In fact, a lot of times you improve these roads and more people come through, because it's so easy. I mean, right now, who wants to go on a 2 or 4 lane road on Orange Road? But once it becomes easier to cross over, then you have more traffic, then you have to expand Orange Road. I mean, it's
And I think there is in the plans to continue expanding Orange Road from the chunk where we are here.
You're
From the
saying there's
track
not?
towards South Old State. My understanding is there is.
I know, so then that will become, it just gets worse and worse versus now. I mean, it's interesting, a lot of times you have a really bad level of service and then within a couple of years, of it being improved, unless it's a very, very wide road, then it just goes down in service. So those are all my concerns for that.
And I totally understand what you're saying, but I also think that if we, obviously our preference is to have that temporary crossing and let's get that as, if at all possible. But if it is, you have to go to East Pal's not all that far away where you can
It's
go.
horrible. If you've ever, that's been shut down for a week or two, traffic backs all the way up. This is years ago. I mean, South Old State's widened now and that helps, but there's no way that would be able to accommodate 10,000. The traffic of 10,000.
East Pal to then getting out of Blair's
Oh,
Parkway.
it'd be horrible. I mean, we've done that before where it's been shut down for a couple of weeks and trying to get to the high school or anywhere else is just a nightmare. When a train's been stuck, I mean, those roads just aren't built to accommodate that much traffic. So just if it could be shut down for 2 years, I mean, I can't imagine that. Thank God my kids aren't in school anymore. But okay, sorry, I'm done with that.
Well, we'll keep moving on. So, so now a couple of projects that are not in Orange Township, but some of your residents may travel through at some points or sometimes at Worthington and Lewis Center Road. This is actually in Genoa Township, but has unfortunately had a history of some rather bad crashes that have motivated us to implement a roundabout, and what we're proposing here is a peanut-shaped roundabout. We don't build peanut roundabouts just because we like to. It's really because we're constrained in some way with either existing homes or natural features that we need to do something a little bit different than a traditional circle. This is a skewed intersection, so it's not a perfect 90-degree 90 degrees between the intersection approaches. So this will be under construction probably late this year. We have quite a bit of utility work to do yet, but this is actually funded through the Federal Highway Safety Program. Again, given some of the crash history we've had, we were successful in getting some funding help through ODOT and the Federal Highway Administration.
Will there likely be detours?
There will need to be detours. It'll be about a 2-month construction project. Fortunately, we have upgraded some of the roads nearby. So Big Walnut Road at Africa Road is upgraded. Fortunately, there is a signal now at Plum Road and Route 3. And so while we hate to close intersections like this, there's just no practical way to build a roundabout like this under traffic.
But you said late 2024, like Christmas time? Or
No,
fall?
if it gets past the point where we can complete it this year, we won't start it. We're not going to try to build something through the winter. It's just not productive and it's going to take too long. So
Like fall?
if we can start in September and be done before Thanksgiving, we'll do that. If we can't, we'll push it until next year. Another project just down the road from that, again, Genoa Township, we have two intersections, one at Old 3C, which is at the top of the graphic, and then at Tussock, which is at the bottom. Again, that big Walnut corridor, and I'll speak to this in just a minute, is going to see some additional pressure with everything going on at Intel. But these are two locations that have also had some crash problems, and so we'll be implementing roundabouts at each of these intersections, and then have this planned for 2025 and 2026 construction. So we won't build both of these at the same time. We'll build one after the next. So that'll be about a $4 million project. Don't know if I've talked about this one with your board, but we do have a project, I would say kind of the last remaining section of Home Road that has not been improved in the last 20 years. This is basically past the Olentangy Caverns, looking to widen this to a 3-lane section, which would match what we have to the west and to the east. That'll be a project we do a couple years down the road. We've still got some work to do on the design and the properties that'll be impacted.
So you're taking down all those trees along that road. That's a very beautiful scenic area.
It is, and so we're very conscious of that, and we've designed it in such a way that the footprint will be minimized as much as we absolutely can.
Will it
So
still be a beautiful tree area? Because I feel like sometimes all the beautiful areas in Delaware County in the southern section, I know that's Liberty Township, but I feel like they're all kind of going away.
yeah, so there's no question some of the trees are going to have to come down. We've got trees within 5 feet of the edge of pavement, which is in the long term a big safety concern for us. So we're going to have to deal with, and this is primarily a safety issue more than a traffic flow issue. It's getting access to the driveways and the intersections on that corridor, getting a left turn, a continuous center turn lane in, really to make that section safer. But I think we don't want to take any more trees down than we absolutely have to. So we're making it as narrow as we can.
Narrow than the parts to the west and east then?
This would be more narrow than the part to the west, definitely. It would be slightly narrower than the part to the east as you go up the hill east of 315. That is a little bit wider. This will be kind of condensed down to much of it will be curb and gutter to minimize the lateral limits.
Okay, good. Yeah, because that along with that in 315, it's just really beautiful scenic vistas that make this area special.
We'll take just a minute to talk about the interchange at 71 and 36 near Sunbury. We have been working for years now on advancing this along with ODOT. So we are getting very close to being able to go to construction on Phase A, which is kind of the light blue on the graphic. That Phase A, as we're calling it, would build the new ramps to I-71, build the bridge over 71, and then connect to Wilson Road on the east side near the outlet mall. So that's really the first step in getting this new corridor established. This is an important one really for the county overall. We have the current interchange, as you may know, if you've gone through there in the last couple of days, is under construction. ODOT is working on replacing the existing bridge. And talking to ODOT, it just couldn't wait any longer. That bridge is 65 years old. It can't wait any longer. So for safety reasons. So that's under construction now. It'll be wrapped up later this year, but this will help really address the long-term traffic flow at this interchange and provide really some good economic development opportunities both to the east and to the west of this interchange. So again, a high priority for the county, just given how important it is to have good connection to the freeway. Just again, recapping, it's about a $42 million first phase. The bulk of that $42 million will be paid for by ODOT. The county does have some money in that, and there's also some development-related revenues from the commercial TIFs that are already in place in and around the interchange. Moving down to I-71 at Big Walnut, just a graphic showing the area that we are studying for potential freeway ramps. The next slide. So what's happening now? We're waiting for about a year to get the traffic data from Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission so that we can start crunching numbers on basically whether an interchange at this location would even be feasible from a technical standpoint. The very first bar, I guess you could say we have to clear is, does it actually work from a traffic perspective before you start looking at things like environmental and mitigating local road traffics? Does it even pass the test, so to speak, for a new interchange on the freeway? And so that's what we'll be doing over the next 6 months or so. We have the data now to actually do the analysis and have ODOT review that. Federal Highway will be reviewing that. And so if that study does show that it would be feasible to actually build an interchange, we'll continue looking at things like impacts to the local roads, the neighborhoods, the environmental mitigation, all those things that we have to look at on any project. We'll be looking at much more detail. If this shows that there's just no way to build an interchange for any number of reasons, we'll hate to say put it on the shelf, but that's basically what we'll do. We'll shift this to the back burner and move on to other stuff.
Forever.
Well, I won't be around forever. I don't really intend to revisit this if it doesn't work this try.
That's what my question and conversation when I've had with the commissioners is, if it's not, if we get the data and you analyze the data and it's a no-go, then it's a no-go. Or if it is it's possible, then we need to just be really clear to the residents as we're continuing the process.
Yes, we're not going to continue spending money on other feasibility studies if it doesn't even clear the kind of what I'd call the technical analysis. We fully understand there's a lot of opinions, both for and against the interchange, and we recognize there's a lot of different viewpoints, and we don't take comments lightly. We understand this would have an impact on the area. I think what I would say is that we have to be realistic about the future of this area of Delaware County. We have 2 interchanges on I-71 that are serving a population of now 230,000 people in the county, and it's just unrealistic to think that those 2 interchanges will forever serve the needs of Delaware County, particularly in this area where Genoa Township, areas to the east of the interchange, Evans Farm, US 23, those corridors are still developing, and we'll still need access to the freeway as we move ahead. So I'm not sure doing nothing is ever an option, but until we figure out if there's a way, and this is what we're doing now, is there a way to build an interchange that actually checks all the boxes, or some of the boxes, so to speak, and then we'll work forward to checking the rest of the boxes.
The traffic analysis that's mentioned there that might take 6+ months, will that be conducted after a majority of the I-71 US 36 interchange constructed, assuming that the technical feasibility study?
No, that work is actually ongoing right now. Our engineering consultant is forming that work, and that'll be, again, the traffic models that I talk about are developed at a regional level by Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. They're very sophisticated, and probably more sophisticated than I can understand traffic and computer models showing demand modeling based on land uses that Morpsey has worked with local agencies such as the townships, such as Delaware County Regional Planning to forecast, hey, what are the land uses going to be 20, 30 years from now? And that's the horizon we look at, a minimum 20-year planning horizon for any new interchange. So
So it takes into account the fact that the 3637 interchange is the new version.
it does.
Okay.
That's correct. I want to touch briefly on ODOT Route 23 Connect. I know you've heard some news and discussion and dialogue from ODOT. This is a study that's ongoing. We're an interested party just like yourselves. We are not sponsoring the study, but we are making comments and trying to work with ODOT to make 23 better as much as we can. Just to give you an idea where things are in the process, ODOT conducted a round of public involvement and outreach last year. I received a lot of comments during that process and is working to address those by refining the concepts that they laid out. And my understanding is they'll be going out again later this year, kind of with a new round of maybe consolidating some of those options or moving towards what they determined to actually be one or two or three best options. And so more to come on that. Again, I want to make it clear that we're an interested party just like yourselves. We're trying to represent the interests of Delaware County and the township in our interactions with ODOT. But if you want more information, there's a link on the presentation. You can probably just do a quick Google search on 23 Connect. So this is, you've probably, you may have seen, these are some of the graphics that ODOT provided. I clipped a couple of the ones in Orange Township. They're looking at basically 5 different alternatives, kind of from existing on the left all the way to what I would call kind of a freeway section on the right, and kind of everything in between. So, you know, obviously ODOT has a big job to do here to try to address some of the comments and come up with a solution that best fits what they have to work with. Our interest at the county level, just as I'm sure your interest at the township level, is to really preserve the quality of life around 23, to make sure that your businesses aren't as adversely affected. That is your economic engine, just like it's part of the county's economic engine. The businesses, the revenue that's generated from those businesses is important to the county, is important to the township. We don't want to see that impacted in a negative way. And so what we've told ODOT is says, look, we recognize there's going to have to be some changes made. There's going to have to be some changes to some of the accesses where you're turning left off of side road onto 23. Some of those movements may need to be restricted. But I don't think there's a scenario where Delaware County would support simply eliminating all those accesses and making it impossible to own and operate a business on 23. So hopefully there's some alignment of interest there. I think there is. But ODOT, I know they've been gracious enough to give us several meetings and hear us out. And I know they're working to come up with a solution that works for everyone. Again, your input matters. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, get involved, look at the options that are being proposed, and make your opinions known. It's important that ODOT understands what people are feeling. Excuse me. So I'm going to wrap up. Excuse me. Intel, bet you haven't heard there's an Intel project. So we've been kind of living, eating, breathing, sleeping Intel for the last couple of years. As I said earlier, we've got a lot of projects that aren't on this list I just showed you. Just flipped, there's 6 projects in Harlem and Genoa townships that we're developing specifically in response to the Intel project. Clipped this off Google Maps, I think a couple of years ago, maybe when I talked to you. And the point of showing you this is that, yes, a lot of the traffic, and backing up a step, you know, there's going to be employees at Intel at opening, and that's just the Intel employees proper. There will also be a lot of supporting businesses that will employ folks in the area of Intel. It's probably reasonable to expect that a lot of those folks are going to be your residents that are commuting to and from Intel and those businesses. And so some of those trips may use the state highways. They may use 23 going down to 270. They may use, say, Old State to Polaris Parkway. But a lot of those trips will end up kind of migrating across the local road network. One of the routes that we know will get used is Lewis Center, Big Walnut, Sunbury Road, and then Center Village as you cross over Hoover Reservoir. And so we've done some work working with Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, working with ODOT to identify what those traffic expectations are. And again, several of those east-west roads in Harlem Township, particularly Fancher Road, Center Village Road, get hit pretty hard with some of that, some of the new traffic generated by Intel. So we'll be making some upgrades to those roads. If you would have asked 2.5 years ago what we have planned in Harlem Township, it would have been probably not much, just chip sealing some roads and replacing some bridges. We've got a whole lot more planned now, but just wanted to let you know and that spills over even into Berlin Township and projects closer to Orange Township. Just took a minute to snip a few projects here, but just know that we are very, very much working to address what we know will be a big change in traffic patterns once Intel opens, and with the goal of making sure that your residents have a good opportunity to get to and from Intel if they have the opportunity to work at Intel or some of those businesses in New Albany. So I think that's all I have. Just want to thank you again for your time and answer any questions you have.
This is maybe something you don't know because it's not the county engineer, but is ODOT doing anything about the backup at like 270 and between 315 and 23 when you're trying to get off at you're trying to get off at 270 and everyone gets stuck right there when you're going east? I mean, it's horrible. And then
Yes.
then the people trying to go north or south on 71, it's backed up. But then when you actually drive along, I don't know why it slows down there. Literally, there's no reason. Like, people just slow to like a crawl, and it seems like something that, are they looking at? I mean, I'm not saying easy fix, but it seems like there could be something that's done, because that really causes significant delays for residents.
Yes, to answer your question, they are. ODOT actually has a project in design right now, and I can't tell you the schedule on it because I just don't know, but I am aware that they are designing a project that would basically convert as you go eastbound on 270 to 71 North, you kind of fly up and over on that bridge. That's built wide enough for 2 lanes, but striped is only 1. That would be striped as a 2-lane bridge. But in order to make that 2 lanes, there's a couple bridges to the north of the 270 bridge that actually need to be rebuilt. They have piers basically where the travel lanes would go. And so it's a bigger project simply than just restriping. But yes, there is absolutely a project to address that. That's a huge crash problem that ODOT's well aware of.
Yeah, it's really dangerous too when you're trying to get, but you can't even get over at certain times. It's astonishing because they kind of redid both of those, that whole area of 23, and then you can't really get off on there. So that's good to know.
ODOT also, just some additional information. ODOT is also looking at implementing a smart lane. If you've used I-670 from downtown up towards the airport, they are looking at implementing something very similar to that on I-71 as you come up from downtown going up towards 270, using some of that inside shoulder that pavement that's already there, converting that to a travel lane that would be used during the higher traffic periods. And so that's an ongoing project that I know would also provide some relief.
Great. Yeah, thanks for a lot of
So something that wasn't on your list, which is it's probably not having soon-ish, is South Old State between Orange and maybe Hollenbeck?
Yes.
Or at least Orange to Lewis Center to Hollenbeck. Is there any big picture time frame on that?
Yes. Glad you asked that. So that project is under design. We have plans maybe 30 or 40% complete. Looking at a 5-lane section that would look very similar to what's south of Orange Road. The limits would go from Orange Road up to Lewis Center Road and widen that section to 5 lanes with 2 lanes each direction plus a center turn lane. I'm aware that the township would like to have a path. We would like to have a path, and so we're including that in the design. We would love to find some grant funding opportunities to help pay for that path, but it is our intention to make sure that the design does accommodate that. In terms of time frame, we think that will probably be in a position to go to construction probably 2027, 2028, something in that time frame.
And there, I don't know if we had an answer yet, but we had asked ODOT about reducing the speed on a chunk of South Old State. I think we were waiting back still from them, right?
Yes, we will be asking ODOT or exploring a reduction from 55 to 45 on that section from Orange Road up to Lewis Center Road. Yes.
And that, we're just waiting on a response from,
I'm sorry.
we're just waiting on a response from ODOT on that.
We have not made that request yet, but we will within the next, certainly before we go to construction on that, because it's our intention that section will look very similar to the 45-mile-an-hour section south of Orange Road.
Do you guys ever like bury the power lines that are along those roads when you're widening? Because it looks, I know it might be more expensive, but it looks a lot nicer sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive to the tune of multiple millions of dollars to, because AP, who owns and operates the power lines, will not do that for free. And there's been a whole slew of litigation over this matter over the years, but in general, we have to accommodate the utilities within the right of way in areas where there's room. There's really nothing that gives us the ability to say you have to go underground, and so to do that, we have to pay for it. That was actually discussed on the home road section west of 23 that we built a few years ago. The cost estimates were just outrageous. I mean, it was, approaching the cost of the overall project to have that power line
Use the
buried.
money for the
Yeah.
underpass.
What about like, will like the South Old State expansion that's south of Orange, or will there be, because I always feel like that just looks like a huge freeway, or will there ever be any, there's some sections that have a little grassy median that looks really nice. And it would seem to be maybe even a little bit safer, even though it doesn't really prevent oncoming traffic, but it just has that real freeway look. Is there any consideration to some small grassy medians?
Yeah, and, that is something I know we've looked at, and I'm not as up to speed on that project as I probably need to be. But the difficulty is you can put those medians in where there's a reasonable distance between driveways, and
There's a lot of driveways along.
there are a lot of driveways, there are a lot of cross streets that aren't necessarily lined up with each other. And so what we don't want is a 100-foot section of median that ends up being something you can hit.
Stuff, yeah, wherever possible,
Yep.
it might be nice. Any other questions?
No. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have agenda changes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I do have two. Under operations, there will be, or I'm sorry, under a consent agenda, there's an operations purchase order for Oberlander's Tree and Landscape for $50,000. That's shown reflected on the template. And then under fiscal report, Ms. Kraft will discuss the February financials. That's all I have.
Is that in the template already?
Yes.
Is it? Good.
Yeah, the two changes are in the template.
Anything else? Okay, next we have the consent agenda approval. Are there any questions?
We did have a question from a resident on the Vail Canyon roads, the 9,274. It's made out to the John W. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy Keystone Preservation Trust. So just so people are clear, that's a trust for a family that owns property right there along Vail Canyon. So that's the reason that is there.
Oh, that's like the payment for?
Yeah,
For
for
purchasing.
purchasing the
that
right of way so that we
property.
can widen the
Okay.
road. Yeah, just wanted to make sure they knew.
So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for the regular trustee meeting held on March 6, 2024, including resolution 24-074, approving the electronic record of the proceedings from the regular trustee meeting held on February 21st, 2024, and resolution 24-075, approving purchase orders, then and now purchase orders and blanket purchase orders as listed.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringgold?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Okay, next we, the development and zoning report, Mr. Duffy.
Good afternoon, trustees. We'll go through the hearings and meetings report, and then we do have one resolution before you to schedule a public hearing. So we have a busy Board of Zoning Appeals meeting coming up this month on Thursday, March 21st, here in this room at 6 p.m. There are 6 agenda items on that application. The first, shown on the screen there, was continued from the February meeting for area variances for wall signage height for Prestige Storage Facility. The second agenda item is a rear yard setback to allow for a pool to encroach into that setback on Jennifer Ann Drive. The third agenda item is again a rear yard setback to allow for a deck to encroach into that setback on Royal Birkdale Drive. The fourth agenda item is for the BJ's located on Orange Center Drive. They are seeking area variances to allow for 2 wall signs to be above the allowed height. The fifth agenda item is for a proposed project. So they are seeking 3 area variances related to the architecture and design of those proposed buildings. This is on Orange Road, close to Highfield Drive. This would, one variance would allow for 3-sided architecture. The rezoning requires 4-sided architecture. But as you can see, those buildings are close together. They are seeking a variance to have less than the required amount of natural materials on the sides that face each other, since those are not public facing. They are seeking a second variance for a roof pitch that is less than what the rezoning requirement allows, and then one variance to allow for a black roof for the buildings, which is not an approved color in that plan district.
Which facility is that? Is that the memory care?
No, so this would be a new business. It's a business called B3 Event Management. So they wouldn't necessarily have events on site, but they would have their administrative offices there and then storage of materials for their events as well.
And I'm sorry, you said that's a Highfield?
It is near the corner of Orange Road and Highfield Drive, yes.
Is that the memory care next to it?
Correct. So the memory care would be to the east, and then the All Our Friends facility is directly south.
And so what color roofs were permitted? Was that a really old tax?
It's an older rezoning. So there's I don't know the exact colors, but there's a slate of colors that are permitted with the Munsell charts, and black is not one of those colors.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
And the sixth and final agenda item, again, is for a commercial project for wall sign height for the proposed Chick-fil-A that is proposed to be constructed at 55 Meadow Park Avenue.
In their initial site plan, have they indicated how many drive-throughs they would potentially have wrapping around the building?
I believe, well, it would be one drive-through. I believe there would be 2 lanes.
2 lanes, okay.
And then,
Are there any, with every Chick-fil-A I've ever been to, there's always, I know why you're asking that question. There's always, the whole property seems to be taken up at any given day, except Sundays, I guess, but the entire lanes are taken up by cars, and then, it's a lot of chaos. Are they redesigning? Do you have any idea if they're having different designs of their facilities now to help accommodate that kind of thing? Are they still kind of crammed into a small footprint, or you might not know?
I'm not real sure what their site plan is compared to their other sites. I mean, they're in the, northwest corner of that parking lot. So in theory, there should be plenty of pavement and lanes for cars to stack. But I'm not familiar with their engineering on that.
Yeah, because it's always, and then there's people trying to get around in and out, and I guess it just depends where it's located, but, okay, all right, that's interesting thing.
All right, and then as for our two tabled overlay applications, I do have an update on the proposed self-storage facility located at Gooding Boulevard and Corduroy Road. The applicant has contacted us and requested that their application be taken off the table. They would like to schedule their hearing. I have requested updated materials from them. They have not provided any updated materials so far. I have let them know that we need those at least 2 weeks in advance of the hearing. So that we have adequate time to review, but they are requesting that their hearing date be set at this time.
So within the next 30 days, is that?
So because they have requested to be tabled, I don't know that there's any statutory requirement for when they are to be scheduled, but certainly.
It couldn't be 2 weeks from now because we don't have the documents yet. Is that correct?
In theory, they could, if you set the hearing date 2 weeks from now, they could get the materials to me by the end of the day, but the end of the day is rapidly approaching.
So I'm confused. What are they asking for then?
They would like to set their hearing date.
So when would the materials need to be by?
We say 2 weeks.
Do we
What,
typically
are they
set the
almost-
hearing within 30 days if the application's not been tabled?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
perhaps we
So I
want
would,
Could we do
stick to
it?
that same time frame.
Could we still do the 20th? Would they just absolutely not be ready?
well, we would, that gives staff less time to review.
Could we do it on April 3rd?
We can, yes.
It's a Wednesday, it's our trustee meeting. I know- Around that time, except that- We don't have to do it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think just because we have not heard from them regarding the revised materials, I would recommend end of March, which is spring break, or, first week of April.
So they want the hearing date set, but they don't have the application, or they don't have the right material.
That is correct.
That's kind of weird. Usually have the materials in and then request the hearing.
Usually.
If they're planning on submitting revised
Well,
materials.
didn't we cancel it last time because they weren't ready? Was it the same one?
Let me put it this way. They are ready to set a hearing with the understanding that we require 2 weeks to review. So in our eyes, they are not ready for the March 20th, but after that, they will be.
Are they sure they'll be ready after that?
If they're not, then we'll come back to you guys and tell you then. But yeah, that's why I'm thinking the first week of April.
But it has to be 30 days, is that right?
Well, because they tabled it, we have a little bit of flexibility with that window, but that's just our standard practice.
But, I mean. But
They want to know when the date is.
what about if we set it for I know April 17th is a little bit farther out, but if we set out farther out with the understanding that we don't know if they're going to be ready or.
The board can do that. I would recommend maybe finding some common ground since they wanted it in 2 weeks, but giving them a
Wait,
little
they
more
did
time. Well, they said they
I believe
wanted,
their request was for the March 20th date.
but because we don't, yeah, it's a very quick time frame without having revised the materials. So, if we want to do it on the 21st or another,
But
we
when do you have to publish it in the paper?
10 days before.
So that.
And the Gazette only goes out twice a week now, so we have to keep that in mind. So that's why a 2-week window is important for us.
Could we do the week of spring break? I could do Wednesday that week.
But there's no way, if we set it formally now, on the 20th, could you contact them tomorrow and see if they'll be able to provide material by Friday, this Friday?
That would be a very short window for publication,
But then you would advertise.
if we get it in time on Friday to ask for it to be on Saturday. It's just it's a risk if we schedule it on the 20th.
Otherwise, it could become non.
We would have to open the hearing and then table it again. Right, so we would have to.
2 weeks.
We do because they have asked to schedule it, we do have to schedule it following the next trustee meeting, which is today. So we do need to put a hearing date together. I'd say I for anything after the 20th,
Would you do the 21st or 22nd with?
like on a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Could you do 20?
Yeah, I mean,
Prefer the 22nd, 21st.
And the 21st is the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. The 19th, I believe, would not work.
yeah, it
because
should be after the 20th.
That's also election day. And
So I mean, is it 26?
no,
So you could do Tuesday the 26th. Or April 2nd. Is there zoning yet for that?
If there's any.
no.
So Tuesday, April 2nd,
That works for me.
5:30?
There's still time.
But if we get this on the calendar, it turns.
So that's, okay, that's good. I don't know, Tuesday. Yeah, the 3rd is not good. So, okay.
Yeah, I think that's staff's, it'll be more comfortable for staff to handle the revisions. We need to work with legal counsel on this application and.
Can we notice more than 10 days? Prior, I know the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually try to do 2 weeks. Yeah, but 10 days is the legal requirement.
I just know sometimes people.
And it'll be on the next zoning report too for the media, so.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That's not, Orange Spring Break is what, the 26th, the week of the 26th?
It's a week before
Okay.
that, yeah.
So the people that, yeah, that's a good point. Shouldn't do it.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. That gives everyone enough time. So, okay, I make a motion, oh wait, are you done with your report?
Yes, I have
The
not.
last one, okay. I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-076, schedule hearing date for RCOD 23-02, Lewis Center Self-Storage. Set the hearing date for Tuesday, April 2nd at 5:30 PM.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes, and it's 2024, beginning of the year. Robin, has there been any movement on the Aldea development at all?
Yes, they've been working through their engineering plans with the county.
They have, okay, they haven't started.
They have not started
Right,
construction
but they
yet,
are
no.
moving towards it, okay. I was just thinking about how that extension is going to be done pretty soon, so.
I believe they have agreements in place to get some kind of temporary access so that they can access the site while that road is being constructed, is my understanding.
Good.
They were one of the projects at Regional Planning last week, right?
But their plat was initially on the agenda, but it was tabled until next month.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, all right, next we have the operations report.
Good afternoon, Board. The only thing on the operations report tonight is relative to the Bale Canyon project. As we continue to work through the right-of-way acquisitions for Phase 2 in order to get trees removed and then utilities moved, we have a resolution of necessity for the intent to appropriate property on the 2 properties listed in the backup here. This is a formality that we're working through with the county prosecutor to keep the project in motion. So we need the resolution in order to continue on that. And that's the only thing we have.
Does it mean to appropriate the property?
So essentially, it is our desire to access their property. So we are kind of declaring our intent to appropriate. It means that we're going to move forward with the project and continue to work with the property owners. But this action will allow us to continue moving forward without delaying the project, and the actions need to go. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah, so the initial terms haven't been agreed upon, so this will allow us to continue forward and then also continue working on the necessary steps to do the road widening.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 24-077 in the matter of adopting a resolution declaring a necessity and the intent of the Board of Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio to appropriate property.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Next, we have fire department, or fire report, Chief.
Good afternoon, Board. The only thing I have on the agenda tonight is the volunteer firefighter dependent fund. So the volunteer fire, it's a state requirement for anyone who has volunteers or part-time. They're not full-time firefighters. And so that's part of the VFIS, which is similar. They cover the insurance for our part-timers, but this fund is for if there is, unfortunately, an individual who was killed on the line of duty, the fund would help the dependents of that family. So we're required to put a board together of 5 individuals, and that's what you see in front of you. It goes from January to December. The reason why it was not done in January is because they were contacting the wrong chief. So when I got the notification, we put it together. So we're ready to get that board established, and hopefully we'll never have to use it. So.
Yeah, make a motion to approve Resolution 24-078, appointments to the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund, VFDF Board.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Okay, next we have fiscal officer report. Ms. Pratt.
Okay, a couple things. The first is an advance for Bale Canyon for the Delaware County TID Grant Fund. So this is just advancing the money over, and we're expecting a payment after May of 2024. And at that point, we will advance the money back to the general fund. So this authorizes both those transactions. And then at the last meeting, Resolution 24-062 approved a PO for Boss Brothers for purchase of, I think, a zero-turn mower or something like that. And when we got the invoice, it says check needs to be made payable to Deere & Company. So this is just correcting that and authorizing us to pay Deere & Company instead of Boss Brothers. Then we have a liquor license for Pancake House 2 LLC, doing business as the Pancake House, to either hold or not to hold a hearing. And then last but not least, we got the financials done on Monday. You should have received an emailed copy, and then there's a printed copy with the bank statements in your trustee office. In general, in the general fund, we have a fund balance of $10.9 million. We did get our advance of the Delaware County funds in February, so that's what's really reflected there in the year-to-date revenue number. The other big funds, roads is at $3 million, and fire at $8.9 million. Parks at $4.5 million, and the sum of all the other funds we have is about $3 million. We are at 8.7 million in revenue and 4.3 million in expenses. So I did move a big chunk of that over to Star Ohio to try to capture some of that interest earnings, and we'll just slowly move it back as payrolls and things like that happen. So I think Ms. Knapp, you get the emails when I move that now. So that's all I got. So we just need to go through those. Any questions on those resolutions or consensus item?
I do not.
Okay.
And where's the Pancake House? Is that near Toronto's?
Yes, it's in that same strip mall, right?
Like at the
Yeah.
other end, right?
Has it been open for a while?
Yeah, it's good.
It's really good.
They also have gelato. Or at least they did. They still do or not. They used to have gelato.
Now they're having liquor.
So with your pancakes.
Is there a consensus that, wait, I can make these other motions first, right?
Yeah, there's one on page 6 on the bottom.
The advance, 079.
079, okay. I make a motion to approve resolution 24-079, authorizing the fiscal officer to advance $500,000 from the general fund to the Delaware County TID Grant Fund for construction of Bale Canyon Phase 1.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Make a motion to approve resolution 24-080 to correct the vendor name in resolution 24-062 to Deere and Company instead of Voss Brothers.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. And then,
Consensus?
yeah, consensus.
No hearing?
Okay.
Thank you.
So, have we always had the bank reconciliation resolution?
No, we added that about 3 months ago.
Okay.
Yep, that was something I found on the auditor states.
That's handy. I make a motion to approve resolution 24-081, review of the February bank reconciliation and financial reports.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? Yes. And there's actually one other thing I forgot to mention. It's not in here. It's just informational for you. I provided to each of you kind of this bar graph. If anybody knows me, they know that it drives me crazy what our fees are at the pool for concessions. So we've been working to try to figure out how to bring that down. And what you'll see here is we found out we can actually kind of split how we do this. So this new fee structure will work really well on the smaller dollar transactions. And you can see kind of the fee savings. It's just like, it's an extra 40 cents basically for the pool memberships and charges. But all the other transactions, which you can see is the bulk of our transactions, these under $10 transactions, will have a significant fee savings by going to this new structure. And we will keep zoning at its current structure so then they're not paying more for their zoning fees that are paid online. So we can do them as 2 separate fee structures. So just informational. If you have any questions, track myself or Todd down and we can help you understand this. But this is just kind of a snapshot of transactions from last year. I wanted to make sure it made sense before we made the change. And, it looks like it does. So.
Is this due to just adopting a different
lower
fee structure, or is it tied to a different vendor?
It's going to have a per transaction fee flat of 40 cents plus 2.5. And that's cheaper than we're paying now.
What are we paying now?
I don't remember off the top of my head, and I should have had that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then we'll keep iWorks at the minimum. Oh, it was what it was more expensive before is because it was a minimum $2. So off the top, so that's why we were getting really hurt on those small dollar trends. So you bought a $2 hot dog and you were paying $4 for it with a credit card.
The residents paid.
The residents paid it,
Right.
yeah. They were paying that $2.
So all the moms
that drove me
paid it.
crazy. So this goes to 1% plus 40 cents versus a flat $2. And then we'll keep the minimum $2 fee or 2.5% on the iWorks or zoning side because they use a different system than Rec Desk.
Now, how were you able to change that then?
Just going through we worked through our credit card vendor. We looked at Square, we looked at Stripe, so we kind of, this winter, we've been going through all the options, trying to figure out what the best fit is.
Well, you
So-
went with a different vendor?
No, we're staying with the same vendor. We were just able to
Trying to-
finally figure out, yeah, because RecDesk is not flexible as far as fee schedules, like what we wanted to do. We couldn't do through RecDesk, and that's just the nature of the software.
That's great.
So this is
That
what
will
we were
save a
able
lot
to
of money
do.
then. So
Yes,
it-
for our residents, this is a direct, this will directly impact those kids buying things at
So if you bought
basically.
something for $2, it would.
It would have cost $2 in credit card fees
And
with a
now
credit
it
card.
costs,
Now it'll cost 2.5% plus 40 cents, so.
that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, so it'll be
Behalf
good
of all the
savings.
mothers whose children have credit cards.
Yes, there's some that I knew Erica knew that I would say, can you tell her that her kids are charging over like back-to-back transactions?
Just buy all your ice cream at once, guys.
Dogs aren't that expensive.
Every break, you get snacks.
So anyways, this will be implemented with the pool memberships that go on sale next week. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next is that everything for your? It is, thanks. Next, we have administration report. Ms. Bonnie?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to pass along a handout because this MyTel support agreement is a little convoluted. So just wanted to, Ms. Bunting helped me put together a snapshot of what we're looking for. So overall, our Parallel Technologies is essentially our manager / broker for all of the township office phones, our fax lines, our security lines, and elevator systems, anything that involves some type of cellular system in place. And then MyTel support is the software that we use for the phones, and then ShoreTel is the phones. Got it? Okay. So long story short, we were on a 5-year plan with Parallel Technologies, which is nearing its term of expiration. So Ms. Bunting has been working with them on renewing with them. As we did a little bit of shopping around, but overall we don't have. The concerns that we've had have been addressed, and we haven't had any major complaints with the system. So what is it proposed in front of you? So the current platform will be upgraded eventually, as ShoreTel, I believe, will be dissolving, or the phones will be dissolving.
They're just gonna have a new platform.
Okay, there's going to be a new platform in the coming years, which will be included in this proposal here. But I would recommend to the board to do another 5-year plan. In the options I've shown you is a gold service plan versus a platinum service plan. We would recommend the platinum service plan because of the 24/7 coverage, as we do have fire. So if our elevator went down or something went down, we would be able to address that immediately. And so the 5-year rate is, the most expensive price, but over time it would be a cost savings. The addition the challenge, well, I don't want to say challenge, but another supplemental thing to this is we have Frontier, who does the fax lines, the fax security lines and elevators. We would like to get transition to a company. Is it called Easton? Easton, who speaks well to Parallel. So Frontier was the outlier to all of this. So like to consolidate and put everything under Parallel Technologies with Easton. And Easton, the amount has shown there is an upfront charge to switching to Easton. However, after 5 months with the new monthly rate, it will be a cost reduction moving forward. So that is a very long story of us saying we want to renew with Parallel for another 5 years, and the main difference is going from Frontier to Easton to have everything under Parallel, just for simplicity's standpoint.
Does this in any way interact with our IT service arrangements with the county?
The IT is very familiar with MyTel and ShoreTel, so that none of that will change with IT.
Yeah, they will still work together.
Yes.
And is it $28,000 over 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at $57.46 per year.
About 50%, is that right? Price?
So, I mean, just with the world these days, our cost for the last 5-year plan was $19,035. But this plan is about an almost $10,000 increase over the 5 years.
Yeah, so it was 19,028. Okay. That's the fine. And then there were some savings from some that weren't being used.
There will, when we transition from Frontier to Easton, we will have a reduction on that sub part of this. I think we said after 5 months. So after you calculate the upfront charges and the monthly, 5 months from there, you'll see the cost savings from that point. So this was a learning experience. We didn't realize how many components of this are for phones, but most of our surrounding neighbors use this system, and we've had really great communication with Parallel, so we'd like to continue on.
Yeah, sounds good. Any questions or more comments?
Thanks for doing all the research.
Thank you.
That was all Miss Bunting.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-082, approving an agreement with Parallel Technologies, Inc. for Mitel support.
Second?
Mrs. Faust? Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Is there any further business from you, Ms. Bonnie?
No.
And there's no old business. Okay, I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-083, enter into executive session to consider the appointment compensation of a public employee.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. And invited to attend the board's executive session are Ms. Kraft, Mr. Kumnitzer, and Ms. Bonnie.
All right, we're on. Yeah, page 11.
Which page is it?
We'll start on page 11.
11, okay. Let's go back. Okay, I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-084, return to regular session.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, we have new business employee agreements. Ms. Bonnie, do you want to discuss those?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been working with our 5 department heads. They are currently on an employee agreement contract. However, we wanted to amend their contract and transition it to a hiring resolution, which has this, similar terms and conditions with their current contract, but this is just a different form of it and something that we don't have to do on a annual or every other year basis. This is just part of their hiring agreement and amending that. So their benefits, their salaries remain the same to what was always previously discussed, and that's what I have in front of you.
And what is the purpose of these agreements?
The purpose of these agreements is at the time of they were originally hired is just to have consistent conditions that they agreed to from their previous hiring date, but now just to make it as a more consistent and something that we don't always have to always revisit. So that's why it's more of a form of a hiring resolution.
Okay, so it offers employees some stability also, right?
Yes, yeah. This is a protection for the employee as their leadership. So if something did happen that was unexpected or without reason, that would give them some protection and hopefully give us time to really take a closer look and consider it and lay out all the options before. I hope we never have to go for any type of termination, but this is something that that is a protection for the employer too.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that this is a kind of unusual when it comes to townships, but I understand the reasoning behind it, so.
Thanks.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-085, a resolution establishing and clarifying the terms and conditions of employment for that person presently employed, as the administrative manager. Is that all that I need to read?
Yep.
Okay.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
So I know it's wordy. The next one is on page 19.
19, okay. I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-086, a resolution establishing and clarifying the terms and conditions of employment for that person presently employed as the Director of Operations.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Is it page
27?
27?
Yep.
Okay. I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-087, a resolution establishing and clarifying the terms and conditions of employment for that person presently employed as the Senior Human Resources Manager.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Okay, 088, right?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to approve Resolution 24-088, a resolution establishing and clarifying the terms and conditions of employment for that person presently employed as the Development and Zoning Inspector.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-089, a resolution establishing and clarifying the terms and conditions of employment for that person presently employed as the Fire Chief.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Is there anything else?
No, I just want to say a quick thank you for proceeding with these. Obviously we cannot do what we do today without our leadership here. So, we're fortunate to have such a great team, and hopefully we never have to go down a route that a negative route with our group. But no, I just appreciate it, and I know the staff will too.
Okay, anything else? Okay, and make a motion to approve Resolution 24-090, meeting adjournment.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Ringel?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? Yes.